What's going on, people? Adventure TV 919 here, and this is going to be a fairly short video, but definitely very informative and probably controversial to a lot of you viewers out there. Today's video, as you saw by the title, this is what I go by. Do not listen to the pro anglers unless you are also fishing the same waters they are. If you're on that same lake that they've been fishing on, yeah, definitely listen to them. But for someone like me, back at home, you know, I always fished in John boats. It's my favorite style of boats to fish in. And of course, since my buddy got a new Ranger boat, I like fishing in that too. But John boats get you in and out of anything. But back at home, I wasn't really fishing lakes like that unless I was on the bank. I was always fishing rivers and ponds. But when I used to listen to a lot of these pro anglers, they give a lot of great advice, but that advice only pertains to that lake that they're used to fishing on. It wasn't about the pond I was fishing on. I would go by some of the baits that they would say. I would go by, use the same color that they would use. And I would go back to my pond or my river and it would not work. My point is that stick to what you know when you're fishing a lake, a river, pond, stream that you do know. Because at the end of the day, whether you're up north, down south, east, or west, the bass are going to react differently. They're going to be moving differently. They're going to be feeding differently. They're even going to react differently. So wherever they are on the map, if you're in that area, yes, listen to those guys. But if I got an angler who's fishing in Texas and I'm here in North Carolina, my area, the weather, all of that is going to play a factor in whether I use their bait to catch bass or not. And the thing is that most of the time, if you use their bait and they're not in your area, then what's going to happen is that you're not going to catch bass. One thing that I love about bass fishing is actually fishing a new area. Now, yes, I do my research and I do pay attention to what some of these anglers are saying, but at the end of the day, you have to learn that lake, that pond, or that river. You have to see what type of bait are in there. So when somebody says that they're using a red jerkbait or gold jerkbait, that color might not work for your waters. Now the bait might work, but that color that they're using, they always say they have like this go-to color, this go-to bait. It all depends on where they're fishing. Because at the end of the day, we got a whole tackle box full of bait. And if only one bait worked in every area where we're fishing, then we wouldn't need to have no other bait. We'll have maybe 10 rods with the same bait on it, and that's it. Just one rod, one reel. Shout out to one rod, one reel. But at the end of the day, if one bait worked for every single place you fish, you wouldn't need to buy other bait. And obviously when you go and buy these baits, there are different colors. Different color, a red might work for the lake and white might work for the river. You don't know until you try. So at the end of the day, you have to go out and fish. You have to cast your rod out. You have to try different bait, different colors on that specific water that you are fishing on. Look at the color of the water. Is it clear or is it murky? All of that depends on what bait you're using and what color. Bass are smart. They're going to react differently. Obviously, different weather conditions are definitely going to play a factor. It's going to get a lot colder up in the north, so you have to use a different bait. You have to use different techniques to catch those bass up north. Down south, it's going to predominantly stay a little warm, but those bass are going to still act differently than cold weather bass. Some places it's not even going to get cold, so you might can just catch bass year round doing the same technique. But at the end of the day, when you do listen to these bass anglers, yes, they do know what they're talking about. But you should also understand that what these anglers are telling you is what works for them. Every angler is not telling you the same thing. Every angler has their go-to baits, their rig set up, their rod, their reel, and their line. They all have that go-to. It's all different. You have to go with what works for you. Figure out the lakes, figure out the river, figure out the pond, figure out the creek. Once you understand those different type of fishing on those different types of body of water, then you can be able to weed out, okay, this works for the lake, this works for the river, this works for the pond, and vice versa. All that matters is what works for you. But My go-to bait for my pops at the ponds we always fish at is a black worm. Now, black worm is always universal, you know, it's that universal bait. But when I start fishing with different baits with him, he would tell me to stick with what I know. Sometimes that does work because sometimes he does outfish me with the black worm. I'm out there jigging, using top water, frogs, swim baits and all, and I'm still not getting a bite. You know, he might get a bite or two, but he's not blowing me out the water. But he does get those bites with what he knows. Me, I always love to try different things. If I don't get a bite in an area where I know there's bass, I'm switching it up every 15 minutes. Maybe even every 10 minutes, I'm switching it up. Because bass obviously are smart. What I'm trying to say is these anglers know what they know when they tell you what they know. But at the end of the day, they don't know the pond you're fishing on. They don't know the lake you're fishing on. They probably have never been on that river you fish. So to take everything that they're telling you and use that out on your own body of water, you may not get those bites just because you might be using the right bait, but you're using the wrong color. You know, and KVD might say use a pink Cinco when the bite gets tough, and you start using that and it doesn't work. But if you go to a black Cinco or chartreuse, you know, it may work. You never know. But you have to switch it up. But like I said, don't try to do everything these bass anglers are doing unless you are fishing the same body of water as them. But if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't subscribed already, definitely subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you all think. But until then, it's Adventure TV 919. I'm Don. Peace.